Jai Hind, this is Brigadier Hemant Mahajan. The subject on which we are going to speak today is that the government has announced that degrees from Pakistan and China will not be recognized for continuation of education in India and also getting jobs here. What are the implications of this order? Why was it done? Does it benefit the students or not? If you look at the Indian students today we have a large number of universities, but 75% of them are private, about 10-12% are let's say government run, and few are which have come from abroad. There is always a shortage of seats as far as important courses are concerned. So therefore lot of students believe in going outside, that is outside the country, for education. If you look at the figures which Government of India has given, it can be seen from there that up to 2018-19, or let's say before the lockdown, approximately 3 to 3.5 lakh students used to go abroad for education. While going for education abroad should be welcome, but this should be welcome only if they go to recognized universities where the standard of education is high, and where education will help them to get jobs, because at the end of the day the jobs have to be given either in our country, that is India, or they can get jobs outside, that is outside India. Now if these two criteria are not fulfilled, then there is no point of going outside for education. Of course students go outside for education simply because many times, many places, the cost of education is lower than cost of education in private institutions in our country. So basically it is for economic reasons that the students go there, because education is cheaper there. Now we saw the problems that come up because of fly-by-night countries and where education standard is not up to the mark. You would know that some time back when the Wuhan virus or the Chinese virus started, thereafter lot of Indian students who were studying medical and other education came back to the country simply because of Chinese virus. They could not continue their education. Okay, now they have lost on the academic term, they have lost nearly 1 to 2 years depending upon what year you were in, and now today China was not even willing to get them back. What is the quality of Chinese education? It is below standard. The educational standards in our country are definitely much higher. Now when India twisted Chinese arms and decided not to give e-visas to the Chinese, just yesterday or day before yesterday, the Chinese government has said that it will permit certain number of students to come to China. But is going to China worth the effort? The short answer is no. The quality of education is poor, the quality of infrastructure is poor, and what we must understand is Indian students who go for education outside, when they come back to India, and if they want to practice, then they have to pass an exam of Indian Medical Association, and it is seen 95% of the students do not pass this examination. So therefore they cannot practice as a doctor or practice the profession in which they got degrees. So basically they do everything else except what their education taught them. So Chinese in any case is a very low standard area. There is absolutely good decision on the part of the government to have decided not to recognize the Chinese degrees. Also we must understand that China is our enemy number one, and sending our children for education to China is not good, because China will go all out to convert them to their cause. So the students who are in that age group of wanting to get a job may get subverted. So going to China is just not an workable and a feasible option from India's national security point of view. Now also look at the education that is offered in Pakistan. Imagine Can anyone ever go and take education in Pakistan where the only thing they can teach to the world is how to carry out terror attacks? Well, yes, some Indians do go there, and how much Indian students are studying in Pakistan, nobody knows it clearly, but the figure quoted in the Indian media varies between 2,000 to about 5 or 6,000, and mostly these students are from Kashmir. Now suddenly you will ask this question as to why the students from Kashmir. Simply because this was a money making industry as far as the front organizations were concerned, as far as agents were concerned, as far as political leaders there were concerned, as far as the Hurriyat conference is concerned. They used to charge money from the students, keep some money for themselves and send them to Pakistan, because Pakistan 5 to 6% of seats were reserved for students from our Kashmir state. Now obviously the students were being sent there to subvert them. There is hardly any worthwhile education which the Pakistanis can give, and therefore it was a wrong decision on part of many to have gone for an education to a country like Pakistan, which is actually more or less a failed state. They cannot govern themselves. So it was a correct decision on the part of our government, on the part of University Grant Commission, on the part of All India Institute of Technical Education to have de-recognized the degrees from Pakistan and China. Now next, another important issue which comes up after this is even countries such as Central Asian republics like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, there also even Russia, there are also large number of students who go there, and lot of these colleges suddenly stopped functioning. So the Indian students who were there just could not complete their education. So this fly-by-night universities which are there in certain economically weak countries, especially the Central Asian republics, etc., are again not a very good option as far as education is concerned, and a lot of students have suffered because of that. And the quality of education is such that most students, 95% to be precise, is the figure given by the media, which says that these students have not been able to pass the examination which they have to pass after they complete education and get degrees in their respective countries. Now what happens as far as Europe and let's say Australia and New Zealand and Canada is concerned? Now European countries today are rapidly aging. So in addition to tourism, one business that they are doing very regularly is education, and lot of Indian students go there thinking that if you go to a European country or go to Australia or go to New Zealand, the quality of education would be good. While there may be few institutions where the standards of education is high as expected to be from a European country, but in most cases the number of hours that the students put there is very less. The students have to work for their education, where they are actually used as some kind of a cheap labor, because at cheap cost they have to work in various institutions as a student, etc., and they do that kind of a job which otherwise they would not do in this country. So basically these countries use the Indian students as a cheap labor who provide services to the society of that country which is of use to them, but there is very little professional learning that the Indians do. So really speaking, even these are no good. As far as the American institutions are concerned, there are a number of institutions. Some have a brand name and some have a very high quality of education. They have to be complemented. But many institutions which are located in smaller places do not match the standards of these well-known names. And also there are reports that there is a fair amount of subversion which the Chinese are doing into the educational system of Europe, Australia, Canada, and many other places. So therefore, so the summary of the whole talk is there is no point in going to China and Pakistan. Their degrees are of no use. As far as Central Asian republics and other countries like Canada, Australia is concerned, education is just about average. Some people do get some kind of incentive by getting jobs in that area, or by getting citizenship of that particular country. If that happens, obviously then one can't blame the students, because they will, at least at the end of their education, will get a job. But that number is very less. America, there are good institutions and there are not so good institutions. So I think what is important is that University Grant Commission should keep a watch on the quality of education where our children are going, and the children and the parents have also to be educated as to which country is good from the point of view of education, as well as training, as well as possibility of getting a job, or of a possibility of getting a citizenship. They should be graded depending upon their competence, and only those universities should our students be allowed to go. But the most important part in this is whichever educational field where the students want to go to European countries, especially technical education like engineering or medical education, why can't the country have more number of medical colleges or engineering colleges built with a public-private partnership, so that the quality is maintained and the cost is also maintained? Because 3-4 lakh students going abroad, spending such a huge amount of money in trying to get an education which is not up to the mark, at the end of the day, the loss is of the country, loss is of the students, loss is of the parents who have taken loans, etc., to send their children for such kind of an education. So therefore, Government of India, All India Institute of Technical Education, University Grant Commission should issue advisories to the students at regular intervals, especially at the when the academic session is about to start, about quality of education offered there, with their recommendations to the students as to which country they should go to and which country they should not. This way, the students will benefit, their parents will benefit, they will not get into a debt trap, they will become useful students. After their education is over, possibly they can come and serve in India, or serve abroad, or settle down abroad. So this holistic approach is required to ensure that the welfare of Indian students is kept at heart when creating more number of vacancies for education, especially technical education in our institutions in our country. In fact, not only this, India should also become an educational hub and ensure that the best kind of an education is given in our institutions, so that instead of Indian students going abroad, it is the outside students, the foreign students who should come to India. Today, the African countries, some Asian countries, the neighboring countries like Bhutan, Nepal, etc., send a lot of students to our institutions in our country. However, it is equally important to get students from, say, developed countries like Europe, let's say America, South America, etc., so that we are able to develop our own education sector as an employment providing agency. I think I'll stop here. If you like this video, like it and share it with as many people as possible. Jai Hind.